Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review, we are looking at the new Marvel Legends Colossus figure, which is very exciting. I know many people have been very happy about getting one of these guys, and here's the thing though, he's got some pretty big shoes to fill because the first one that came out all those years ago is pretty fantastic, so it's going to be interesting to see how this guy stacks up. I've heard some people really like it, and some people really don't, so we're going to talk about why that is in this review. So let's go ahead and get him off the stand and take a closer look. This guy stands just about 20 centimeters, which makes him just about 7 7/8 inches, right around there. So he's definitely got the size that he needs. So that's pretty good. Now, I've heard some people complain about the coloring and about some of the proportions, and those people are kind of right. But is it going to be a big enough problem to not get the figure? Personally, I don't think so. I think it's mostly pretty good. I like a lot of the things about it, so let's talk about the paint first. Probably the most important thing is the color silver on this guy. One of the biggest problems on the ToyBiz figure was, or that people had anyway, was that he was too dark, and that's kind of a subjective thing, but it's also objective because he's supposed to be fairly chrome looking. Now this guy is also very, very dark. You can see in his arms and hands especially, the silver is really close to almost like a gunmetal. It's very, very dark. It does look nice, it is metallic, but it could be argued very easily that he's way too dark. The face, on the other hand, is a little bit lighter, and it's a lot more chrome-ish. It's not chrome, obviously, but it looks very nice. I think if the entire metal part was the same as the face, we'd be aces. I think that's really good. As it is, I don't hate it, but I do wish, as many people have said, that the arms were more silvery or chromy than they are. I think, though, the combination of the color for the hair, the metallic, darker gunmetal, and then the lighter silver for the face is very nice. And while we're talking about the face, let's talk about the alternate head. I don't need to do a separate shot for that. You can just see this. We have the bearded head with the Justin Bieber type of hair, and I didn't know this was a thing for Colossus, but it's pretty awesome looking. Also, I really like the sculpt. I think they nailed it, so I like that. And the alternate head is nice. It's nicely done. So the rest of the paint on this guy, it's also mostly pretty good. The X logo here is basically perfect, so that's nice. The line work on the upper body is really clean. The black in particular, it's very good. The red to yellow transitions are very nice. Down here on the legs, not quite so much. We have a little bit of fuzziness, which I'm guessing is just due to the extra curves and things that we have. So it's not terrible. It's definitely acceptable. And then for the gauntlets and for the boots, we have this gold, which it does leave a little bit to be desired. They have kind of like a black wash going on, and the vibrancy of the gold is not uniform. It does look like it's missing some coats in some places, but it's not terrible. It'll probably do. And then lastly, we have the orangish stripes on his feet. I'm not sure if they're supposed to match the rest of his body, but if they are, they don't. They're much darker orange, but they're cleanly painted. So aesthetically speaking, it's okay from a paint perspective, so let's talk about the sculpt. I've heard a lot of people say they really like this sculpt, but it's a lot like Hyperion, and they're not wrong. The sculpt on this guy is better than Hyperion. It does look nice in most cases, but we do have that really fat lower torso area. The abdominal section, it doesn't quite give him that V shape that you normally have for a superhero. It's almost straight up and down. And I think really where that problem is occurring is in the chest. If his chest was just a little bit broader, maybe slightly bigger shoulders, his overall look would be fantastic. So I think that's where a lot of people are getting that issue, and they're not wrong. It's not a deal breaker, but they're not wrong. It would be nice to have a broader chest like the original Colossus, because he's supposed to be pretty beefy, and his chest right here is just kind of average beefy. You need more beef, that's what I'm saying. The proportions going front to back, not as bad as Hyperion. You can see we don't have the shelf chest, but the arms are definitely still too far forward. He's got really weird neck to shoulder region. The neck is humongous and the shoulders are forward. So it does create kind of a weird look. And so I get what people are saying. It's not anywhere near as bad as Hyperion, so I think I can live with it, at least as far as the shoulders go. But the neck is humongous. You can see it sits his head up really high, and that also takes away from that V shape. Instead of having the neck or the head down a little bit, they don't. So that does affect the aesthetics. It's not anywhere near deal breaker status, but it is definitely pretty iffy. And then the last thing for the sculpt is kind of an articulation issue, but that's these gauntlets. They do not rotate. And so when you move the hands, when you rotate the hands around, you really can't because this part of the gauntlet gets in the way on either side. So it's not ideal, but ultimately it's still a really solid figure despite those flaws. So let's go ahead and talk about the articulation. In the head, you actually do get the hinge in there, which I'm glad. I thought at first when I saw this guy that he wasn't going to have it, but he does. And in fact, you can actually lean the head forward just a little bit on that hinge because it sits too high on the ball peg, which you can see it kind of dislocates the head, but it brings it down just a little bit and helps the aesthetics some. But you do get good range. You can lean side to side and spin it around, but again, that's actually the result of the poor anatomy. So if that's a good thing to you, cool. If it's not, then not cool. We have our ball hinge shoulders. They take a lot of force to move, but they do come out almost horizontally, just shy, so that's pretty cool. And wow, they're very stiff. You do get your full rotation, so that's a good thing. Bicep swivel works just fine. However, he's got big triceps, so they will bump into his obliques. No. What are these? Damn, I can't remember what they're called. Whatever. It'll bump into his sides. And then we have our single jointed elbow. But I gotta say, I'm not loving the way it's sculpted because we do get kind of gappy in here, and there's really no reason for that. They could have handled that much better, and it doesn't even go 90, so it's pretty limiting. I guess you might be able to move these gauntlets forward a little bit. It doesn't really feel like it, so yeah, it's kind of limiting there. You have your swivel in the wrist and a hinge, so that's pretty cool. We have a gripping hand here and a fist hand here. I don't know. I'm kind of partial to having symmetrical hands for a guy like this, but, you know, it doesn't really matter. That's just a personal thing, so no big deal there. Same articulation on this side. Ab crunch on this guy goes one notch back, and it's painted all the way through, except for the tiniest little bit. Can you see the orange peeking through at the top? So that's fine. Not the best design, though, for the abs, I have to be honest. They're kind of pot-belly shaped. They stick out a little bit too far here, especially when you lean it back, so that's not great. This should be pushed in a lot more. Oh, that's the other thing that looks not great about this guy. His pecs and abs are basically on the same plane. You really should have kind of a swoop effect. Not necessarily that it needs to be like he's anorexic or something, but you do want to have the chest stick out a little bit and the abs go in a little bit. So the fat torso situation is still kind of a bit of an issue. And the sculpt here, the abs are flat. And the reason they did that is to afford the ab crunch. But if the chest was sticking out farther, you wouldn't have had that issue. So, you know, it kind of goes, if they fix one issue, they can fix both issues, and then it's good. But it's fine back here, so they're not huge issues, but they're things you should be aware of. We have a waist twist, which works just fine. The hips, they go all the way forward, and they barely move the leg out to the side, so that's really good. I'm happy about that. Going out to the side, I mean, definitely far enough for Colossus. Could it be farther? Sure, but I'm perfectly okay with that. And they look good from the front, so I'm very happy with his hips. We have a thigh swivel, obviously that's fine. Double jointed knee, no issues there. Of course, he's a little bulky, so it's not quite a full bend, but it'll work just fine. We do have a shin swivel at the bottom of the boot. On this guy, one of the legs was backwards and the foot was facing the way the foot would normally face. So take a look, make sure the calves, which are like, it's triangle shaped, so it's fatter out here and then it comes to a point, make sure they're facing the right way. And if they're not, you can just spin them around and resituate the feet and you'll be fine. The hinging on the foot doesn't go forward barely at all, so it's pretty disappointing. They do go pretty far back. And then the ankle rocker actually works really nicely, but if you want it to be even better, you can rotate them a little bit here since it's not super noticeable, and then you have a perfect ankle rocker. So ultimately, this guy's really good. If I could just change one thing, it would be the head sitting way too high on the neck, or the neck being way too huge. And then if I could change a second thing, it would be slightly narrower hips, slightly wider chest like Colossus is supposed to be built. But maybe even this version's not quite so V-shaped. Either way, it's really solid, so I recommend it. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. I have new videos up every single day. We talk about action figures, movies, TV shows, video games, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you turn on notifications. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up if you liked it. And in the meantime, keep collecting.